a moment like this.
Thanks for that. And perhaps if I could pick up on that point you made about this entire
about me being a doctor.
Well, we very much respect academic qualifications here, so don't worry about that. But if I could pick up on the point you were making about how this entire deal is built on that ability of the UK and the US to sort of always find areas of commonality, even when there may be big differences. And perhaps, Director Kratsios, if I could come to you and try and sort of understand why it is so significant that the US and the UK are doing this together, this deal on these sort of tech partnerships for the first time.
Well, I think as I said earlier, these are the most important policy areas, bar none, in the world today. In every international engagement that we go into, the first thing any country ever wants to talk about is technology partnership. And I think it's important to remember this was the first and the most comprehensive tech deal we've ever done in this 47th presidency, and I'm not sure we'll ever do one as big again. And I think that the details of it, I think, are really important to kind of dig into a little bit. I think in the first area of artificial intelligence, one thing that we're so excited about, particularly on the R&D front, is there is an incredible way that our synergies of our R&D ecosystems can come together to drive far better outcomes than we could have done individually. We have incredible compute infrastructure in the United States. Here in the UK, you have incredible data sets around biology and life sciences that can be leveraged for joint R&D together. On the nuclear front, energy continues to be an issue here with energy prices and even the U.S. So the ability to be able to drive and accelerate the adoption of civil nuclear is a huge step forward. There was a big signing that sort of dovetailed with our technology signing by our Energy Secretary earlier this week, where we're attempting to harmonize some of the regulations around the approval of civil nuclear between the U.S. and the U.K. So as we develop those new technologies in the U.S., they can be adopted here in the U.K. far more quickly. So there's lots of things that we're doing. I think that because of these synergies together, we're able to sort of drive much better and more effective outcomes in the technologies that matter so much.
Yeah, and perhaps if I could just pick up on that point you were making about the synergies, and there's a lot in the memorandum of understanding around regulation and opportunities for regulatory alignment. I mean, and perhaps this is a question for everyone across the panel. Is that the direction of travel? Are we hoping to see greater convergence in regulation and find that alignment in these new and emerging areas of technology?
It's been a big part of the conversations we've had in a whole range of discussions between the two administrations. America and Britain have a fundamentally different approach to regulation. The way we design regulation is fundamentally different. But that shouldn't exclude us from finding areas where we can have more alignment in it, and that's what we've seen with the civil nuclear. I think the areas where it'll work most is emerging technologies, and that's why the tech partnership is so important for this and gives us so many opportunities for regulatory harmony, because it's all novel. If you look at the highest growth, the fastest growing sectors globally at the moment, you're looking at space, automation, AI, drones, health tech, climate tech. All of these are throwing up innovations that don't fit neatly into existing regulatory landscapes or regulatory frameworks, which means we're having to design sort of new ways of approaching it. And if you're designing new, then you have the opportunity for designing for cooperation with your key partners. So I think in some of the main sectoral regulatory areas and frameworks, quite difficult to align, but in some of these new areas, there's great opportunity. And in civil nuclear is one of the areas that we landed on, because we and America both have a lot of both industrial and R&D expertise. We have Rolls-Royce, and America has a few manufacturers who are doing a lot of work in small modular reactors. And we've just given £1 billion to partner with Rolls-Royce, which Liz is overseeing. And that gives us a huge opportunity for a market, for R&D, to get there first. In everything in this tech partnership, it is about Britain and America partnering in order for us to prevail in the race for this technology and to stay ahead in the race for this technology, because this is not just about economic growth and jobs, important and essential as that is. It is also about national security and defence as well, because of the dual purpose nature of almost everything we're talking about.
And perhaps Secretary of State Kendall, just to kind of follow on from that, it'd be good to kind of get your view on kind of what makes the US and UK the ecosystems that we both have, what makes them uniquely placed to be able to do that level of cooperation and that sort of collaboration, which in what are quite sensitive areas of technology development?
Well, the way that I think about where we in the UK are world leading and where we have our sort of competitive edge, there's three areas. It's our brains, you know that here, our world leading researchers. There's always more we can do to back our brains, and we want to do that. I also want to make sure that we give skills to the next generation. It's very important that we do that, so we have that pipeline. Secondly, it's our sort of building blocks, the data that Michael talked about. Our world-leading data sets. We want to do more there through our National Data Library and other developments. And third is our Britishness, our language, our rule of law. And I think one of the reasons that this partnership is so important is we are in a race for the future, and we want it for all of our differences between our two nations. Those underlying values are really important, and collaborating in those areas to make sure we win the race, we secure those developments under that framework with those shared values in a world that is more volatile, that is more dangerous. We need to seize those developments within the framework of those values for the benefit of both our people. And I think that's really the big message here for us. The world is very volatile, and we want to work with our long-standing partners to make sure on all of those areas we are setting the standards and we are delivering the benefits for our people. There is a lot more that we can and need to do, but this partnership, I think, sets the framework. It's hugely important for the future of both our countries.
One area that I feel like we've touched on in a lot of the different answers so far is talent. All of these emerging tech sectors are going to rely on an increased pipeline of very highly skilled talent. And I don't want to shamelessly plug Imperial, but there are universities here and in the US who are doing their bit in trying to kind of educate and graduate those people. So how do the two domestic policy agendas support a deal at that scale with policies that are really going to encourage that talent and that skills pipeline to flow?
Well, the U.S. does a tremendous amount of joint research programs with the U.K., and it's something that our large funding agencies, the National Science Foundation, National Institutes of Health, and others all do. I think it goes back to a little bit the answer that I gave before, where it's trying to find where there is a unique advantage in each individual country and find a way to pair those together. So I know that our research in the United States that have access to high-quality compute would really love to be able to leverage that with the data sets you have here and institutions which manage them. And I think it goes vice versa. So I think there's if we think around the world, like what is the closest counterparty to the amazing academic community that we have in the U.S., it has to be the UK, and it's not even close.
Can I come in there? I think we have to go even earlier. I'm an MP for Leicester West, and in my constituency we have an incredible space park, which is a collaboration between our National Space Centre, the University of Leicester, which is spinning off startups. We working with Rolls-Royce Aerospace. It's a brilliant place. And the very first time I went round to talk to people there, I met people from London, from New York, Berlin. I want people in London, New York, and Berlin to have great, well-paid jobs. But where were my people? Where were my constituents in that space park? Talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not. And so we ran a Leicester West Schools takeover day where we brought the kids into the space park. They were flying drones. They were doing computer-aided design. And we needed to show them that this incredible place could have jobs for someone like them. So I think we've got to think much earlier on, because we know from history that sectors who only draw talent from a small pool ossify, and we need to make sure throughout the pipeline that we're giving people those skills and opportunities. And that's why, you know, as a government, we are investing in a program called Tech First to train children and young people in the AI and tech skills of the future. We are determined to make sure, through a partnership with some major tech companies, we will upskill 7.5 million people. That's 20% of the workforce in the skills of the future, as well as backing our world-leading universities. I think we have to see this as a pipeline of talent, because that is how we will continue to win the race in future.
Great. I think perhaps if we move on and in a way talk a little bit about where we go next with this deal. I think we've sort of celebrated it, but the hard work obviously really starts now. And I sort of wanted to start with a question really for everyone on the panel, which is, you know, we both have thriving science and tech ecosystems, but what do you think we can actually learn from each other? You know, if we're being honest, what does one ecosystem do better than the other that we can bring back into our ecosystem? Perhaps Director Kratzios, I can start with you.
Not to kind of belabor this, but we have a very federated system in the U.S. where we have individual states that are very empowered to sort of run their own academic institutions and research programs, but obviously we have a federal government as well. I think here you have a more consistent, cohesive, centralized repository for a lot of data and other efforts. So for us, like that's something that we can very much leverage and be able to benefit from. But I do think there are actions we can start taking immediately. To me, I think one thing that's coming up that's in the agreement is closer collaboration between our new AI Institute and the Safety Institute or Security Institute here. And I think what we talked about in the MOU is kind of a return to a focus on metrology and measurement science around these large language models. And this is a sort of very marked turn from a lot of the fixation of the last administration in the U.S. on some of this sort of existential risk issue. And I think it ties very much into this sort of joint belief that we have to have secure adoption of this technology for all of our people. And that's an area where the UK has been extraordinarily strong. I think the institute here was launched even before the US one was launched. So there's an incredible amount of talent that sort of can be paired together on that. And I believe that kind of extends to the other areas, and it goes back to the standard setting around all of our civil nuclear enterprise. These are areas where there's a very sort of vibrant regulatory community here and also in the United States, and those folks do have to come together and talk, and the only way that's going to really pull it together is through this agreement, so it's great to see.
So just take Kyle.
Thanks. There's lots of areas of the way that the US does things which, aside from just the sheer scale that the US can do things, and you know, when I was appointed to Liz's job, straight after the government came in, there was a kind of mini debate going on at the time as whether Britain just tries to be a mini America and just do a bit of everything, whereas America does a lot of everything because it can afford to, or whether we specialize. Well, we chose to specialize, which is what brought a lot more focus and strategy to our space program, for example, where I came in and we'd inherited a series of assets but no strategy on space. Well, that's changed fundamentally now. And when we are backing the potential for having UK launch, we're backing the potential of having backing the sort of small satellite sector where we have real world-class expertise. That's a true right across the board. But there are areas where you do look to America and think, actually, we can learn from that and we can apply it here. And I think the national labs that you have in America have been absolutely standout. In different areas, bringing together, using the federal convening power and funding power, and then the ability to bend regulation and legislation towards one area of research, and then focus that in a really concerted way, bring together investors, researchers, public researchers from higher education, and then the private sector as well. It is a really good idea, and that's something I think we have learned from, and we are starting to apply here. And I think you see the work at Imperial, and you see what happens when you can have that kind of leadership within. The other thing I've spoken about, and I'm in the news for today, so let me be clear about what I didn't say, was that I gave an anecdote when I was at the NVIDIA conference yesterday. And I said that when I went to Stanford a couple of years ago, and I asked a group of students, about a dozen students, why they had gone to university in the first place and why they had gone specifically to Stanford. And all of them, every single one of them said because they wanted to found a company. They wanted to start a business. And it's always stuck with me because you know, if you had a dozen undergraduates in the UK, you'd have to have a pretty big group before you found someone that said that they'd gone to higher education and to a specific university in order to start a business. And that drive, the entrepreneurial drive you see in America, and the way that higher education, because I've never met a vice-chancellor or a leader of a university that doesn't identify their organization as being an economic organization. But there is that other thing. It's not just about providing broad skills for the economy. It is actually getting really, you know, really down into the foundation, the spark of entrepreneurialism that I think we need to have a sort of a slight mindset change as a society around. So I looked at the specific in America on the national labs, and then there's the mindset thing about entrepreneurial drive at the very, very beginning of and through the education system that I think we can learn quite a bit from.
Can I add just a quick thing on that? You know, we do, from what I understand so far, I'm new in the job, and there's much more I need to learn. But I think we do have, for all that Peter has said there, you know, we have incredible startups here. We need to then scale them up. And I am very interested in what more we can do to back brilliant British companies to expand and thrive. Now, nationally, we're doing that through our British Business Bank, the National Wealth Fund. I mentioned in my answer to the first question the changes we're putting through Parliament now to see what more we can do to get our large pension funds investing in UK companies. But that is really, really important. So we grow those companies, we keep that talent. We want investment from the US, and that's what we got in this tech partnership, over £30 billion, but we need to do more to support those startups to scale up, and that is something I think we need to focus on.
Just very quickly, sorry, the other bit of your question about where we go from here per se, there are some negotiations that are so dysfunctional, challenging and difficult to get across the line that when you get to the line you kind of run off in different directions and never want to see each other again. I hope you can tell from the way that we're talking here, and it was predominantly from the sort of the elected side, the political side. It was Michael and I that was leading the conversations here. We got to know each other very well as a team of negotiators from civil servants who are often, some of whom are in the room here, and I pay absolute tribute to the officials that were driving the talks that led to the agreement. This was a set of agreements where we deepened the knowledge and the relationship between the two administrations. This is going to be a partnership, which is a partnership going forward, not just a partnership which is on the title of an agreement going for one moment in time. And that is what's going to be so special from this. That's the thing I'm most excited about, is actually where we go from here. And I think if we can show that it works, we can show it delivers for both nations, then I really see no limits to this. In the NVIDIA conference last night, I gave the anecdote about my mum. And this means a lot to me, and it means a lot to everyone in this room for lots of different reasons. But I lost my mum. She was scanned 3 times in the course of a year. Then she collapsed and died just a couple of weeks later, and she had cancer that wasn't detected. And now, in the last 10 years, with the integration of AI into radiotherapy, there was no question in my mind, literally no question in my mind, that she would be alive today had she been scanned using the scanners that are currently in most hospitals across the UK. That was the last decade. In the next decade, we have the opportunity, if you listen to people like Demis, to actually prevent those diseases happening in the first place and to cure them if they do emerge. That's the potential we have. The potential for that becoming a reality has just come a lot closer because of the partnership that we have designed between two nations. And to be part of that, and to be in a room for the people who actually were in the front line of doing the research and benefiting from this, is just the most amazing thing to be part of. To be a small part of that relationship, and to be in a room like this, and to be able to have future generations that look back and think, this is the group of people that made that a reality. That is a pretty special thing to do.
That actually leads on, I think, to one of my last questions, which is, if we were to gather again in 5 years' time, where do you hope we'll be? What does success look like for this deal?
In government.
To me, I think if you kind of just go through the three sections, there's some pretty obvious things that we need to do. On the AI front, I hope that we can continue to make sort of novel discoveries and breakthroughs in important life sciences that will make huge impacts to all of our people. I think new integrated research programs between our AI institutes are going to be really important on the AI front. Harmonization of some of our innovative sort of regulatory sort of apparatus around artificial intelligence is critically important. On civil nuclear, it would be amazing to see SMRs deployed and actually powering homes here in the UK and the United States. And on quantum, to actually have a research security program that rises to the occasion of how important that technology is for the world. So those would kind of be what I would hope to see in a few years.
So just say, Ken.
I mean, it would be, more world-leading breakthroughs, more world-leading British companies, and more incredible ecosystems like you have here in other parts of the country.
Everything they said, and I want everyone to be excited about technology and AI. I want everybody to feel, every person in every part of the country, to feel the benefits of AI. I want people to feel the benefits in their health. I want people to feel the benefits in their pocket. And I want people to feel an excitement and an optimism about the future as a result of the way that AI is developing and the way that AI is being deployed in their benefit.
And final question, I think, is, you've got a room full of either Imperial academics or other people representing parts of the UK research base. How do you want us to engage to kind of help this deal be a success? Not just getting our hands on some of that compute power, and perhaps not just spreading our entrepreneurial spirit that we have here at Imperial around the country, but what do you need from the universities in the UK science base and the US base?
Well, what I'd really like is a new technology where I download everything in your heads into my head so I know exactly what to do. But I would say my friend and colleague in the cabinet, Pat McFadden, always says the best politicians don't say everything or do everything, they do the most important thing. And what's really important for me is to have a clear set of priorities in this area, which inevitably does mean deprioritizing other things, so that we are really boosting our competitive edge. And I don't believe governments should do everything, but they need to know exactly what it is you need to have backing for. So that is the discussion I would like. I really do want to come back and properly talk to you, because we won't be able to do our job unless we know what you believe will help you be the best you can, and what role specifically is in that for government. Because sometimes governments can get involved in lots of different things that isn't where we really need to focus, and that's the help that you would be able to give me.
So you should say, Carl?
I think that it's really hard for me to sit here and tell academics and researchers and outstanding innovators what to do. But it's my hope that you spend more time focused on discovery and less time filling forms out and worrying about where the next load of funding is going to come from in many of the areas. Liz is rolling out 10-year funding, and we're trying to find ways of making that as effective as possible to give you the security that you need. But everything that I want you to do is as a result of the partnership that will come between the government and you as public sector funded research at its very, very most conceptual and the highest level. These interactions are really important for us. We do listen and learn. The last person when I was here, sitting in Michael's seat, was President Macron. Now you've got the senior tech advisor for the White House sitting here. You're doing a pretty good job of getting people here to interact and to listen and engage with the very best of academia in the UK. We just need to make sure that you are unencumbered, that you are free to be creative, imaginative, and put all the expertise and harness that expertise as much as possible. And I just really hope going forward that this is an outstanding university for the commercialization and spin-outs. It is outstanding. It is world-class, and it is leading. I just hope that every single undergraduate, particularly those that come from backgrounds where entrepreneurial sort of flair is not in the vocabulary of the family background, that those undergraduates get exposure and get that flame ignited in the same way as those who just come here with it already in them in the first place.
And Director Kratzis, if I give you the final word.
Oh, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, one of the things that our office thinks about a lot is how we can encourage young Americans to go into science and technology fields. And the number of Americans that are graduating with PhDs in the hard sciences has been declining quite steadily over the last 15 or 20 years. And in some of our most important hard sciences, the majority of PhD recipients are actually non-US born folks. So a lot of our effort is to try to spur more Americans to be excited about these incredible technologies we talk about and think about every day. This is what is going to be transforming the world. These are the people who are going to be creating new drugs and shaping the way our economy functions. So for us, I hope and I continue to want to work with all of great institutions around the world to make sure we have more young people interested in sciences, and excited that this deal can help make that happen.
Great. Well, look, thank you very much. I think, there's a lot of optimism from this conversation, and I think there's a lot of optimism in the room. There's a lot of hard work still to do. I just wanted to thank the panel for the discussion and to thank colleagues from the US Embassy, from your office, the White House Office for Science and Technology Policy, colleagues across Whitehall, and of course my team here at Imperial for bringing this event together. And if we could just have another round of applause for our panelists, that'd be great. That's what I want to do.